Trendsetter Engineering is really, it's a privately owned company based out of Houston, Texas. If you kind of roll back the hands of time in our history, we started out as a engineering support company, third person kind of technical support to oil and gas. The impetus for Trendsetter in the form that we know it was really the BP Macondo incident. So in 2010, BP was drilling an offshore oil well here in the U.S. Gulf of Mexico, and they had an unfortunate incident that resulted in a loss of life as well as pretty large environmental impacts here when we lost control of the BP Macondo well.
Latest on the search for 11 missing crewmen from a spectacular oil rig explosion in the Gulf of Mexico.
Nearly 100 survivors of the Deepwater Horizon oil rig explosion arrived at Port Fourchon, Louisiana early this morning, reuniting worried relatives with their loved ones. Their ordeal started around 10 p.m. Tuesday, 50 miles south of Louisiana. A massive explosion lit up the sky. 126 workers were doing routine drilling on the oil platform before it was engulfed by smoke and flame.
And at that time, the industry really didn't have not just the hardware, but an understanding of what it takes to control a subsea blowout. Yep. So although well control has been around for over 100 years in our industry, and we've made great strides to protect the environment and to control these wells, what happened at Macondo was something that we really weren't prepared for. And in 2011, Trendsetter was awarded a contract with the first not-for-profit consortium here that was put together by all the major oil and gas companies. It was called Marine Well Containment Company, or MWCC. We were awarded the first post-Macondo contract to design and build a dedicated subsea well control package, or capping stack. So Trendsetter, in a matter of just a few months, was able to provide a system to allow the industry to get back to subsea drilling operations and again, enable our energy independence in offshore operations by designing and delivering this capping stack system. We really have become kind of the world leader when it comes to subsea well control technologies. So as of today, Trendsetter has capping stacks that represent somewhere probably in the neighborhood of 80 to 90% of the subsea wells that are drilled that have capping stack technology listed for a subsea well control event. So we've got capping stacks that are located here in the domestic U.S. Gulf of Mexico. Both are with not-for-profit consortiums here. One is MWCC, the other is HWCG. We also provide high-spec capping stack systems that are staged in Saldanha, South Africa, Singapore, Norway, and Brazil. In addition, we've provided these services, this equipment in the U.S. Arctic, so in the Chukchi and the Beaufort Seas, as well as in the Russian Arctic in previous years. Everything that the oil and gas industry does when it comes to emergency response, preparedness, and actual well control response, it's not subsidized in any way, shape, or form by the federal government. So it is all self-funded. I think a lot of people look at the oil and gas industry as kind of the dirty side of our business, but I'll be very honest with you, we're probably the most environmentally friendly, conscious industry that exists. So for me, you know, we do things and we spend literally hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars per year, not just in the U.S., but also internationally, to make sure not only are we prepared to respond should an incident happen, but more importantly, to prevent the incident from happening itself. Yeah. So if you travel to an offshore oil and gas installation, whether it's the U.S. Gulf of Mexico, it's Mobile Bay, even international, and you step foot on that platform, the first thing you're going to do is to have to go through an onboarding process where they talk about not just safety, but more importantly also the environmental side. So I've been on offshore facilities where if you literally drop something over the side as small as a nut, if somebody wants to throw a drink off the side of the vessel, it gets reported as an environmental impact. Yeah. Well, I'll sit on the same rig and look over the side of that vessel and watch a shrimp boat or a commercial fisherman come by, and they'll pump their bilge, discharging oily water into the ocean and creating a sheen. So everything we do, again, is based around being able to provide energy to us because, look, me and my family, I love driving my vehicle. I love having power in my house. I love having an air conditioner. But you know what else I love? I love taking my kids on a hunting trip or a fishing trip or a camping trip or going and hiking. So while I'm very passionate about my industry, I'm also very passionate about the environment we live in. And it frustrates me a lot because I think there is a very much, not just in the United States, not just in one area, I think there's a lack of understanding of how much we do when it comes to the positives for the environment. If you look at the footprint of an oil and gas well, when we're done drilling an oil well, drilling, producing, we plug that well and we leave, you have, at the end of the day, in most cases, you have a zero impact on the environment. The ground is fully rectified. You can walk over it with your family and you would never know an oil and gas well was there. You can look at a cluster of oil and gas wells. We could have 50 oil wells in a certain area. It all ties back into a single pipeline. There are thousands and thousands of pipelines strewn not only across the Gulf of Mexico and the United States. You don't see them because a pipeline is small, they're monitored, they run through the middle of a forest, and you can be hiking, you're walking right over one, you don't see it. Now, if you turn around and you go and you look at a wind farm, you turn around and you go and you look at solar, it makes a huge scar on the Earth's surface. And it changes not just the way it looks, it changes the entire ecosystem in that area. So while I do believe in alternative energy, I think that we need to be realistic in our approach. And you can't have a switch that turns on and off when it comes to hydrocarbon dependencies. It has to be a very rational conversation we have and figure out how we are better steward of our resources. Yes. We're always going to need oil and gas. We need to be able to find it, drill it, and utilize it in an environmentally friendly manner, while we're at the same time looking at how do we reduce the dependency on hydrocarbon. The whole concept of hydrocarbon elimination overnight, it's a farce. It's spun up by the other side to create panic and havoc, and a game.
Together, we're saving American energy.